Thank you and good morning. Appreciate all of you out there being part of the show today. I want to remind you we do need an advertiser for this segment. You can call Doc at 281-914-1331, 281-914-1331 if you want to advertise on this show, because we'll get your website put right here and we'll have your name and phone number right there to make sure that everyone knows how to find you and to utilize your business. And of course, we'll only allow one business per category to advertise on this show. You're going to get bumps throughout the day. You're also going to get a space on the freedom1300.com website. So we will drive business to you. It's early. It's 2025. It's the golden years for the golden triangle. So let's get you going right here on freedom1300.com and on the Doc Green Show. Oh, did I mention you could also get naming rights if you're a major sponsor? And it's a lot less money than you might. So let's get you going. As you know, I am promoting Texas secession, and I think this is the perfect time because Donald Trump is a very reasonable fellow, and I think we could easily negotiate something that would be good for the United States of America and for Texas. But nonetheless, we here in Texas have our own set of problems. 2 more employees from the State Health and Human Services Commission have been fired for accessing private information of Texans seeking public assistance in the state's Medicaid, food stamps, and other programs. Well, we don't have all of the details on these latest firing. They occurred after the state notified more than 61,000 people who had either applied for or received assistance between June 2021 and December 2024 that their private information was improperly accessed by state workers. Of those fired so far, 3 employees last year had their cases referred to local prosecutors. 2 of those referred employees were found by the agency to have changed personal information numbers on Lone Star food stamp cards, and then used those numbers to make illegal purchases for themselves. The firing brings to 9 as the total of HHSC employees that were terminated in the past year for stealing private information with no legitimate reason, except for greed, of course. Early Monday, the Senate Committee of Finance and Hearing Chair Joan Huffman, she briefly asked HHSC Commissioner Cecil Young if it was true that more than 8,000 employees had access to this private information. And Young confirmed that indeed it was true and made her first public comments on the breach. This is being reported by the Texas Tribune. This is a big deal. The privacy breach, as you know, was something that was part of a new pattern that our own employees were doing. One thing I wanted to make clear is oftentimes when you hear someone is breaching privacy, it's coming from outside. But in this case, it was actually coming from our own employees. Turns out when you hire these low-wage workers that have very low requirements for IQ, they end up doing things like, stealing money. The discussion was intense. Agency officials confirmed that 40% of its employees that handle the Medicaid, food stamp, and other public assistance programs are working from home, all as part of the scamdemic. This prompted Joan Huffman to comment on how that could be a problem because she said, you don't know who's walking through these rooms at these houses. Some of these people have nefarious backgrounds. They have nefarious friends. They look down and say, wow, you got access to all those Social Security numbers and you got all those driver's license numbers. Do you have any idea what that's worth? What we would pay you if you would get us that information? Well, last fall, the Legislative Budget Board surveyed 96 agencies about the impact of allowing employees to work at home. And the survey, which did not include public colleges or universities where there are loads of deadbeats masquerading as professors, asked agencies a variety of questions about the positive and negative impacts of allowing these people to work from home. Of these, 29 agencies reported that remote work had had a positive impact on reducing costs. Some 80 agencies reported that remote work helped them to retain employees or helped them to recruit new employees who also didn't want to have to show up for work. When it came to productivity, however, the results were mixed. About half the agencies reported they saw improved productivity. 40 agencies said there appeared to be no difference in productivity since the people, when they were coming into work, didn't do much anyway, and now that they're staying home, they're not doing much either. So that was a big deal. and 10 agencies just decided this is not important. I'm not even going to investigate. Senator Charles Perry, Republican from Lubbock, said that from the public's point of view, the move to remote working during the coronavirus scamdemic has done nothing but reduce their access to government services. Getting help is now more difficult as certain agencies have limited hours in person where staff are working in the office to meet with Texans. Have you tried to renew your driver's license, for instance? Go ahead, try to go down to your county tax assessor's office and find out you need an appointment. I'm reminded of that movie with Tom Hanks and the Indian janitor. Do you have an appointment? If you ask the customer that's dealing with remote scheduled people, I think the response would be an overwhelming, it ain't working. Well, here I can tell you, look, I have a lot of experience with these government employees, and this much I can absolutely tell you. Most of these guys don't do much work when they show up. Did you ever watch that movie Office Space? And the ones that do show up, they're not doing much work either. So, or the ones that work from home. Anyway, Lois Colcourse, I've always thought she was pretty good. She's a Republican from Brenham, said, I think we have to look at our office space utilization. We rent a lot of office space. And so some of the agencies we've reached out to have answered us, and they say we're more efficient working from home. But then we get a bunch of lease space. And I would say that our constituents are maybe not working as efficient as they could. If I go to the office to get some kind of face-to-face service, it's only open 2 days a week. This is the problem. That's why I asked you if you ever tried to renew your driver's license. Finance Chair Huffman indicated she'd like to see tighter controls on remote work. They have to have a remote worker. They need to tell us what they do and why they have a specific need for working from home as opposed to working here in the office. The truth is, I kind of like remote work if the people are actually producing. But the problem is, in many cases, they are not producing. Now, we've got all kinds of software. There's lots of ways we can monitor if these people are actually getting something done. The reason why Donald Trump is so amazing is because he gets more work done before 11 o'clock every morning than Joe Biden did, say, in the last 4 years. So it's a matter of want to. It's a matter of need to. In Donald Trump's case, he's already got more money than he could ever possibly spend. He's already got the respect of the world. He has no interest in enhancing his status in that respect. What he's interested in is saving the United States of America, and that's why he comes in and works so hard. These people, for the most part, have very little incentive beyond getting a paycheck. And the only way you're ever going to get them to do any productive work is if you monitor the productivity and see how much work they're actually turning out. That's all I got to say about that. Now this, in the somewhat disturbing section for us Texans here, and indeed this has implications for the entire nation, Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick have recently announced their legislative priorities for 2025, and guess what? Our God-given rights to keep and bear arms were completely left off the list. I mean, you got to remember this. Jesus said, if you don't have a gun, sell your coat and buy one. So that's a clear mandate from the Bible. I call it the 11th commandment because it was issued from the mouth of the very God himself, Jesus, the mighty God in Christ. Now, you may have noticed that David Hogg, who is a virulent, lying anti-gunner, was chosen as one of the vice chairs for the Democrat National Committee, that the Democrats have taken over complete control of all of our committees in Austin. Yes, in spite of having a Republican majority for nearly 20 years, our new commie leader, Dustin Burrows, he's a commie, he's a leftist, he's a Democrat, pushed through rules to require every committee have a Democrat vice chair and to require all legislation to be approved by the vice chair before it can be even talked about. HB 162, Briscoe Cain, to ban red flag gun confiscation. There have been many people killed with this red flag legislation, and the way it works is simply this. Your neighbor down the street saw that you had a pro-Trump sign. They reported you as a danger to yourself and others, so they come down on their red flag legislation. They try to take your guns, and of course, all you see is a bunch of guys coming into your house with guns, and so you pull your weapon, and they kill you. And then they walk away with a smile on their face saying, well, we sure took care of that problem, didn't we? Ending deadly gun-free zones. It's an absolute fact that most crimes occur in gun-free zones because criminals don't care what the law is. Bad people are going to do bad things, and laws do nothing to dissuade them. So, Senate Bill 83 by Senator Hall, one of the heroes up there, House Bill 925 by Representative Kane, House Bill 1128 by Representative Isaac, House Bill 1715 by Representative Kane, House Bill 1794 by Representative Tepper, and House Bill 1908 by Representative Schatzline, and House Bill 2031 by Representative Richardson. These bills would eliminate many of the restrictive gun-free zones that law-abiding Texans are not allowed to defend themselves if they're in these. And of course, once again, when seconds count, the police are always minutes away. This is why it's so important to have an armed citizen present in all of these places so that they can stop these bad things from happening. House Bill 920, Representative Bumgarner, would remove the sales tax on firearms, ammunition, and accessories. Texans shouldn't have to face these extra costs when exercising their God-given rights. Once again, I have to point out to you, there's no tax on food. Why? Because food is an essential. Well, let me tell you, being able to protect yourself is an essential as well. And in the early days of this country, when they wrote the Second Amendment, you could not, even in a bankruptcy operation, seize a man's firearms or his ammunition because they were considered essential to life. These bills should be top priorities. Bills like House Bill 170 by Representative Gillen and House Bill 644 by Representative Bell are critically important bills that would drastically improve civil liability protection for gun owners and business owners alike when they defend themselves, and they would decriminalize short-barrel firearms. Once again, that's another law that was put in because of organized crime. Yeah, organized criminals had sawed-off shotguns. They said, well, we'll just make that illegal. Well, how's that working out for you? Of course, there are nearly 100 firearms-related bills that we're actively monitoring. Most of them are bad, especially with Democrats being in control of the House now. It's imperative that your lawmakers know which bills are the cream that should rise to the top, and we need your help to make sure that those things happen. So I'm going to ask all of you once again to consider joining Texas Gun Rights or the National Association for Gun Rights, but in particular, since we're Texans, Texas Gun Rights. Join up. You can become a member for as little as $25, and that really helps to prevent these bad laws from being put into place. If Jesus said, sell your coat and buy one, you know it's important. It is critical that you guys do this. You have a choice, and you chose Freedom 1300.